Somewhere in the Arab world, a war is being fought with weapons that shouldn't exist, pipes that cough fire, gas cylinders that fly, catapults made of telephone poles. Mad Max wasn't a movie, it was a documentary that arrived late, and this is the field manual nobody ever wrote down, until today, diagrams included. First, the definition: a cannon is anything that hurls a heavy object at someone. A steel tube with gunpowder works. So does a rubber band, a sisa, or a really angry man with a rock. If it lands on the other guy's head, it qualifies, and that's the whole curriculum. The slingshot cannon, the pride of Syrian engineering, rubber exercise bands, a pouch, and half a dozen men pulling for their lives. It's how you launch a bottle of fire across a battlefield. Kindergarten technology, preschool physics, and it works, which is more than you can say for a billion-dollar weapons system. Want more reach? Build a ballista, carbon fiber arms, exercise bands for tension, and a winch to cock it. International hobbyists tested one and put an arrow 750 meters downrange. Now imagine the arrow is a bomb, and the hobbyists are at war, and nobody hears it coming. But a real ballista is fiddly, expensive, and honestly a bit much for most militias, so in practice, it mostly stays in the YouTube comments, next to the trebuchet memes, where it belongs: admired, upvoted, never built. The crowd favorite is the trebuchet, a lever with a counterweight. Lift the weight, drop it, and the arm whips forward, hurling whatever you loaded over a wall and onto the other side. High school physics with battlefield results, and the best part is what it's made of. Whatever's lying around, gravity does the rest. A telephone pole for the arm, sandbags for the counterweight, a frame from an old exercise machine, and you have artillery that hides in plain sight. It lobs Molotovs and fertilizer bombs over cover, then comes apart before anyone can find it. Invisible artillery, the militia's dream come true, and the street looks innocent again. Cheaper than a cannon, simpler than a mortar, and it lobs anything over anything. For the budget artilleryman, the trebuchet is the answer, and it's parked next to the sandbags, disguised as fitness equipment. Then there's the museum piece, an Ottoman-era cannon, hauled onto a modern truck, firing shells that look older than everyone watching. The blast is magnificent, the aiming is a prayer, the shells are on permanent loan from a museum that's very confused and now missing its exhibits, but war trumps curatorship. The verdict: spectacular, terrifying, unsustainable, a few museum shells, then silence, then a long walk home. The workhorse is the gas cylinder cannon, an LPG tank stuffed with homemade explosive, welded to a tube and pointed at whoever's annoying you. It's the heir of the improvised mortars that terrified armies in the 50s, and it runs on fertilizer, which explains the hardware store's questions, and the sugar aisle's sudden emptiness. A fuse up front, fins in the back, a stabilizer for the long shot, and a tablet with a ballistics app for aiming. It's crude, heavy, and slow to reload, but it will flatten a mud brick house from a kilometer away, which is the point of the whole exercise: really heavy, slow, and terrifying on the receiving end. Put the tube on a bulldozer or a truck and you get the ultimate fire and forget: big standoff range, easy retreat, and heat sinks welded on so the barrel doesn't melt mid-conversation. Rude, and hard to explain. And if the battlefield is too small for cannons at all, there's always the homemade rocket, a steel tube, propellant packed in a 7:3 ratio, a warhead up front, and a fuse made of match-tip string, firework physics with military application, and a price tag that would embarrass the defense industry, which is always the goal, really. The rockets are inaccurate, unguided, individually not much, but they cost nothing, and a few thousand will bankrupt an air defense system. Quantity has its own quality, and interceptors run out first. This is what endless war looks like: a pocket of land, and weapons made from pocket change and stubbornness, and nothing else to spend. None of it works without industry. The pipes, the cylinders, the fertilizer, drone parts, they arrive through online marketplaces, the true arsenal of the modern battlefield.
Let me ring the bell.
100 years ago, guerrillas forged their own iron. Today, they add to cart, and the delivery driver is the quartermaster. That's the difference industrialization makes. A century ago, a resistance fighter's gun was a lump of iron that might survive a few shots.
Good.
Today, the same fighter orders 1,000 pipes overnight and has artillery by the weekend. Hardware stopped deciding wars the moment everyone could buy it, and that changed everything. Give desperate people a spark of industrial power, and history shows what happens: they improvise, they endure, and sometimes they win. The weapons are ugly, the math is not, and the other side is still counting. Civilization isn't who has the biggest stockpile. It's whether a person with nothing can build something, whether the poor can live with dignity and change their fate, or whether power just means taking other people's land and calling it a party, which is the oldest con in the book, and the party always ends badly, and someone pays. The weapons are improvised.
These rebels, they're nothing.
The human will behind them isn't, and that's the part empires keep underestimating. That's the manual. Stay safe, stay curious, and maybe don't build a catapult. The neighbors will